everybody. I'm Kris Sugatan of Sugatan.io, and we have my guest here who is housed within Sugatan, Maryna, our graphics director inside Sugatan. And, really impressive result here is that our graphic Maryna, her team has generated 6 million in trackable revenue through the ads that her and her team have produced since August of 2020 to today, which is now October 2021. And as you guys know, we specialize in growing direct to consumer brands. And so this is effort that they've made to help us accomplish the goals that we try to help a lot of these founders create a multi-million dollar direct-to-consumer brand. And I really wanted to really focus on graphics ads and put a microscope on it. A lot of times we talk about the video ads, we talk about, everything else, but the actual value of graphics ads. And that's what we're going to be speaking about today. We're going to have a casual conversation. We're just going to share with you our experiences, some of the things that we've learned over the last year, what is working, what isn't working. How do you build a team like that? What are some different formats that you guys can take to start experimenting with graphics? And then how does graphics ads serve advertisers in social media advertising specifically in the direct to consumer space? So welcome, Maryna. You look fabulous.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. It's just the happiness shining from my skin.
First of all, let's start first with let's describe and define what graphics ads actually are.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a tricky question because obviously for different companies that would mean different things. And I believe in Sugatan, graphics ads have the broadest meaning of them all. So the top things that we are doing are predictably so all the statics, everything photography driven, everything animation driven. Plus, we utilize video assets, but in alternative format to storytelling. So we like boomerangs, loops, maybe steps of application or like slideshow of different video fragments instead of a storytelling. So we basically use video fragments like graphics. That's what we do on top of, and on top of that, we obviously help facilitate some of the video ads by creating different performing thumbnails, plus also collaborating and optimizing some video ads with graphic elements. For example, sometimes adding split screen with photography is something that can send like some sort of video ads into viral space, and that is something often strategized on the graphic team side.
Yeah. This has actually been such a interesting problem to solve on my end as a CEO because I do feel like, and maybe you can expand on this, but one of the very first obstacles that I encountered when we were just starting out the agency is that um, a video producer or editor is not necessarily graphically driven. Um, and and then I remember having to add on hiring a graphic designer, which is Xenia. She's now our director of brand inside Sugatan. But you know, and even myself, when I self-taught myself video editing, and then I had to come to the part where I had to add graphical elements on it. I mean, it is just a whole different type of discipline. Now, is it normal for graphics designers to basically know how to manipulate video or have the skill set to create an effective storyboarding format through video, and then vice versa, those who actually are trained to produce video, are they inherently trained in graphical elements?
Yeah, I would say it comes basically from the education that everybody's taking, and I believe that the path of like self-taught designers and editors is actually pretty similar to university ones, because they try to acquire a similar skill set. And that means that usually designers start as designer generalists. So they try to learn everything in Adobe, and that means that they will end up learning After Effects and Premiere as well, at least in like basis. And things that they do with motion right off the bat very well is often animating typography. And doing a, like rather animation work, but they can apply principles from animation work into video content. That is why the best use of video assets we found in our junior graphic designer, who is actually coming from motion design. He understands the principles of motions. He used it for animations that he created, but he then can apply it to videos. And I believe the similar things goes with editors. I think editors are obviously way more invested into learning the storytelling aspects. That is why they think about like frames in like that order that tells the story. And for them, learning about use of graphic elements comes rather from, for example, additional courses. I know some of our editors, they actually had design education on the side. Or it comes from looking at competitors, because there are lots of mixed formats that use both graphics and videos. Or it comes straightforward from the brand guidelines of the clients that create limitations. I think that usually the biggest struggle for editors is not images themselves, but understanding typography, and that letters need space and like how letters should be looking like to be big enough to be readable and very noticeable, but don't look too cluttered, do not affect readability and things like that. Or how to use branded fonts in a way that is respectful for brand. So I think if I would advise editors to do anything like very specific, I would say to them to learn a bit principles of typography, because principles of use of images in video, I think competitor research can bring you this like level of visual literacy. But typography is a tricky one. Just looking at letters won't help. You need to get like a bit of lecture. And for designers, I would say the weakest point would be actually storytelling aspect. That's why I believe that they should actually invest into learning the storyboarding, and that will help them
Yeah.
apply their skills in the more meaningful like video way.
Yeah. I mean, I asked because it's like, is it, for a D2C founder who is building out a creative team, for example, whether it's realistic to just be like, hey, I have a video editor already. Now do graphic ads. How like feasible is that, do you think, and how possible is that, or should they actually start building out a graphic specific team? And also vice versa too, like if they already have an email person or email agency, is it realistic to just be like, hey, create a graphic ad?
Yeah, I would believe that the only way when it's possible is when they hire somebody like ultra generalist. They are going to somebody on like Behance or Upwork, and they see that that person has already examples of both type of work. I would advise slightly against just taking somebody that knows only one skill and very well, and then forcing them to do another. I would create for this. If you want to finally land there, I would create path of learning for such person. But generally, if somebody is very strong in videos or very strong in statics or very strong somewhere else, I would try to dedicate their force onto their strength the most, and then dedicate like say 20% of their time on their learning curve, instead of like immediately throwing them to become a generalist if they are not.
Right. Great. I love it. Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna move on into like I do want to talk about um what it was like to come in. and then be assigned into an account and then just say produce graphic ads that is meant to hit whatever ROAS requirement that we had in that account at that time. um, Talk about like the historical, like what have you learned in the last year since we literally threw you in? Because I think, I don't know if you even understood that what we were expecting from creatives is to drive top of funnel purchases, and I think it's a little bit different from your history and what kind of work you were doing. So yeah, let's get into that. What have you learned in the last year, that is helpful to some of the founders and those who are helming growing e-commerce brands?
So I started working Sugatan as actually graphic designer on the biggest accounts that we had in February 2020. So I would say it's a bit over a year and a half. And that was a very exciting experience, though we started with the request of, hey guys, can you make 3 ads every 2 weeks? And that was like, in comparison to the volumes when we faced later on, that was a very funny one. I think it came from like we still try to figure out if graphics actually work. So that's why we have such a small
Yeah, yeah,
volume. I come back from the branding,
yeah.
and I came back from a lot of like academia, like 10 years in academia, doing different style and teaching different style of design, and so like kind of social sciences research. So my first instinct was to try to do something very on brand, obviously, but I calmed down this instinct and I decided to try to turn on like a little anthropologist and like alternatively start to think not about what I would want to see, but what the customer would want to see, and what can potentially stop the scrolling. So it's both about like marketing message, it's just like what they would want to see in this ad to like stop them, but it can also be like I developed lots of design skills. I understand composition or understand like use of typography and things like that. And I would be like, what of these general principles of design are something that can stop people scrolling? And then we slowly started to build it together. And I believe it took approximately just a month to start getting things going on like positive results, and then like 2 to 3 months. And I would say onboarding path is really fully 3 months until you start getting really like solid big results. And we were hired together with our current senior creative strategist, Alexander. We worked on the same accounts together, and she has this natural talent for grasping just that thing. I also would say that I learned a lot from her and the way how she sees things, because I believe that you will bury your ego every week about that, and being able to bridge, like create this bridge to a customer and come and like prioritize their interests, not just their entertainment, but also like the way how they want to be informed about the product, how they want to be sure when they make their decisions, even the most impulsive ones, how we can reassure them. That was the biggest learning path. And yeah, I didn't expect how interesting that would be.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually the meatiness, I think, of like what makes graphic ads work. Because and it, like, those principles that Alexandra and yourself co-collaborated on that drive performance in graphic ads. What are some of those principles? Like what makes, and I've personally seen graphic ads go viral, which really honestly, and let me just tell you the moment that it was like, what? Right? In my personal journey, and what I think is in the personal journey of many, many creators and founders in the direct to consumer space, e-commerce space is like we all came in at a time when there weren't a lot of we all came in at a time where like visual media was just completely starting in the video space, and advertising, it was like the algorithm, Facebook's algorithm had matured right at this cusp where their targeting was so fucking good, and also video on your feed was not that like normal. And and so I came in at a time when video was the thing, and we were actually one of the first ones to produce videos that started to come up in people's social feeds. And this is why the graphics was a PS. And actually, it was actually Xenia in the very beginning during that period, which I would have to say was like a year and a half to 2 year period, was when Xenia really developed case studies around expanding graphics ads. She used Naked as an example. Naked is a household fashion brand in Europe. I had never heard of Naked prior to that, but she was like, let's start doing carousels. It started with the carousel ads. It's a carousel, again, there's that slide to your, it's like Tinder like, it's like, you just swipe left, swipe right, or whatever. And she picked up on that because she was Xenia is a very avid social media user on Instagram. And so she was really replicating what is the need of behavior. And and that was it was actually her that led me to introduce, because I'm very much open to any ideas that it's like, let's just test it. And slowly but surely she developed her team. She started really building out a team. She was doing it on her own. It wasn't through my like direction at all. And then I would have to say that you and Alexandra and Dana coming in really, like, you guys had to make your mark inside the agency. And I would have to say that it was one of the best, things that could happen to us in the agency, that didn't come from my directive, but it was just you guys really making it your own thing. Um, and so, and so I want to talk about that one moment where I realized, holy shit, graphics actually has the power to go viral, which was on Main Roast Protein Coffee at first. This was Dana's team. It was, I'm always working on the hardest accounts, and this was a difficult account to scale. And she put out a graphic, it went viral. It went viral more than the video. And I think at that time I wasn't really talking to you per se, and I was like, holy crap, why is a graphic ad going viral? Right. And it wasn't an image ad, it was a graphic ad, completely a graphic ad. And I was so perplexed and I was so confused. But then I knew that's when we really, on my end, that's when I started ramping up. We got to ramp up graphic ads, because like for some reason, I'm pretty sure it's because everybody's slamming everybody with video now, which at that time we were using 30 to 60-second long videos as part of like the normal video production for video ads. And I was like, go ham on graphic ads, and then we started putting you on the biggest accounts. I'm pretty sure that's when, Xenio was probably hiring out, because it was like, go, go, go. Because on our end, we strongly emphasize on speed of execution, speed of testing, which is also very different, I think, from the mode of designing that you probably had in some of your prior work that you were doing before Sugatan. So I know that was a lot. Like, comment on that, because like I just want to share my trajectory around it, which I know is the average trajectory for most e-commerce founders, or and those who are you know directors of performance or head of performance for e-commerce brands, for example.
So, yeah, I would also elaborate on our part of this, but I would also try to describe the graphic that Dana did. just to prove the first point of like graphics performance principles, it was kind of close up shot of
Yeah.
this like protein coffee in the shaker, and shaker comes in multiple colors. And these colors were a simple animation of change of the colors of the shaker. And this is the graphic that went viral. And that goes into our first principle is graphics should be as self-explanatory as possible. They are not given a space to tell a long story. We're not given the
Yeah.
time to make the story unfold. But the advantage that comes with it is like we see how often customers watch just first 3 seconds, right? And with us, our ad is with 3 seconds, and we don't need them to watch it longer to make the decision. So it comes with this advantage if you achieve the level of being self-explanatory and showcasing the product well enough, that will give the results. So I would want to elaborate on.
But
Yeah.
why does that work though? Let's go into why that works. Like in the context of the user. It's so important. Like, why does that work? Because before, what worked was this long form, it still works, this long form sort of video, long form meaning 30 seconds to 60 seconds, even all the way up to 3 minutes long. I remember we were creating these like 2 minute long videos at one point, to try to like create the story on video ads. So why is it to be self-explanatory? Why do you think that works so effectively now?
I would have multiple guesses about that. The first one is that I think a lot of customers are actually driven by the demonstration and the information more than they're driven by story. And they some like one of the first ads that for me and Alexander went viral was actually like close up of very aesthetically looking skincare product with just description of its benefits with icons that also symbolize the benefits. Static, very simple, and that is an ad that generated, I believe, over 500,000. So uh,
No, this was, and I remember this too because Davidez was like, "This is the ad that's going viral on Averiglow," and it was like an animate. It was like not an animation. It was like a drawing.
on that account, like multiple graphic ads went viral. I can list with some of them,
Yes,
but
100%.
yeah, it was also benefits plus very slow aesthetic video that was not edited at all, just like 10 seconds plain of like scrubbing on the cream, close up with benefits, illustrations with benefits, and so on and so forth. And that we understood that oftentimes uh, female purchasers of skincare, they want to know what the skincare is for because they're already motivated enough to buy skincare in the first place, and they just need to see, oh, this skincare solves exactly my problems. So that's what kept working and generated, I would say, over a dozen of creatives. So this self-explanatory can be very informative. You know all the colors of the shaker. You know how all the benefits of the skincare, or you know all the style of the lashes, and you can make informed decision. Ad is helping customer likes to
Yeah,
be helped.
yeah,
I think another reason why
yes.
2020 was the graphics year is also because COVID hit, and there's multiple reasons what had changed. For some of our clients, it was hard to get video content in, and we had to be very strategic about that. All people could do is film themselves selfie in a mask, but it's limited. They couldn't source some models and things like that. That's what happened with Flash Brand. And the thing that we came up with, and it produced it in 1 year and a half, I think 20 plus viral creatives, is just they need to have eye close up. It's a lash product, they need to have eye close up. So we did cut from every photo the eye, used their website eye images. When we started to cut from videos that we already have, I so that eye staring at a customer and blinking. Actually, Xenia has extreme trypophobia from one of our most viral ads, which is like 9 squares of eye with a lash blinking. For her, it causes
Yeah.
trypophobia. For other people, it causes stopping their scroll. So that is another thing that drives people is that product is very demonstrated. It's like they can see the details of the product. I have the same with skincare. We know that other ads that work for skincare may not even show all the benefits, but they show close up of a texture moving in a bottle, or like swatch and things like that, that gives this almost tactile feeling and full understanding how the product looks like. And I believe that's why tech companies invest a lot in CGI and doing this like flying 3D animation of their product opening up and closing and things like that, and statics with that too, because sometimes people just want to feel that they're almost, it's almost there, it's almost tangible.
100%.
And graphics can give this sense because they can give like the most hi-fi close up and things like that.
Yeah.
And yeah,
That's actually what I believe. I believe that the more that you can immerse the viewer into the experience by activating as many senses, like I think that this is why I'm a decent marketer, is because I'm so fascinated by what it is to be human, and to be human means that you uh, are operating on basically multiple sensory like functions. You know, you like the close-ups that you're talking about, it's really about understanding the texture. And as a consumer, you know, I think, which website was it, H&M got this really immediately when I go on their website, because they were one of the first websites that actually produced video on their product page. And it was because like this, and also their images, it was like all the close-ups for you to understand the material so that you can know how it actually feels, and start to understand how it feels, and sort of activate the vision, the imagery part, the fantasy part of us. Our third eye is really what I call it. and and then, you know, the video is like, so you could see the movement, so you can see the flow of it, you know. And then the girl that they choose is really so you can aspire to look like that. All of those like activate the senses, and I think that that's actually pushing the person further into making the decision to buy, is when you get their fantasy like mode going, you know, and they start to envision it, they start to get immersed in it. And I do think that that is our job as visual creators, is to experiment and test with those different ways that you can immerse the viewer. But again, I think on your aspect too, you cover all the other aspect. You could do both. You know, you can get them immersed in it through textures, through sensory. But then the other aspect of it is, the thing that we're having a hard time balancing is having it be so direct and so quick, like reducing the friction of them actually understanding what the product is. Right? It's beautiful. I fucking love it. It's like
and very
amazing.
simple. If you get it right, after that it feels almost simple, like self-explanatory is the word that I like. I think in a way it's almost like contemporary art when you like look at that and it's just like I could have done that.
Yeah. Right. 100%.
Maybe you actually
No,
could.
it's so
You should
fascinating.
just like learn a little bit.
Yeah. Um, all of this is actually relevant, and why it's important is because we're, you know, all of this is being tested and implemented into one of our new accounts that we are co-owners of this brand. It's men's skincare. So we've been doing women's skincare. We still are doing women's skincare for a long time, and now we've transferred that to a men's skincare demo. And this one is starting from zero revenue, and um, and the because video production takes a bit, we actually launch graphic ads first. So let's talk about that, because the result of the graphic ads is actually, um, you know, before we started coming in, the founder had been trying to get sales for a month, and he had zero. He accomplished zero sales, and then as soon as the graphic ads goes live, literally by day two, we had a sale already, which was really, really exciting. And so let's talk about that graphic ad, because now obviously we're generating, I think we're on week two. Today we've had $500 in sales so far. It's only 2 o'clock. So we're probably going to hit like a $800 day today. It's like, I don't even know what week into. I think it's week two that we just started running ads, and so let's talk about that, because it's the graphic ad that's actually bringing these sales uh, right now.
Yes. So I will just break it down by our like kind of ideation strategy and our operation strategy. When we are trying to start something, we do not look at that in a way that, okay, that's just a small beginning. Let's start with somebody in experience. No, we just try to get the most experienced team member to ideate and support others in while they are creating their ads, plus bring in something on the table that they do themselves. And that is exactly what had worked. It's actually an ad by our senior creative strategist. She's still, hands on, and I believe should be. It's our senior graphic strategist, um, Alexandra. And next thing that we did, we actually did the vast research of all the competitor ads, based on which we created lots of swipe files. We created numerous research on like photography use and things like that. And then we just started to think about what elements can we use. We have very limited client provided content, because first week we like to play with content that there already is, even if it's like 5 images. So we took this content and we had a look at that, and decided that we will go with, again, this very informative aspect of making very close up of the products shown. And we were lucky that some of them were open and people also could see texture. And it's actually the ad that worked. It's an ad for a scrub product, just close up of a jar open, standing on desk. And we added quite like a little bit funny copy, but not too funny, because I think that we will layer in humor later. But we wanted it to be informative, but also in a way like playful, because that's what we noticed doing all the vast research, is that because men are not such common buyers of a skincare, they almost need to be eased into doing so. That is why the copy that went with the scrub was scrubs away the tired look and reveals new skin, which is kind of description of what scrubs are doing. And to which we also added a muscle emoji, because we also know how male customer loves emoji use. If it's like kind of like the masculine emojis, they would really really like the fire, the muscle, anything like that. So that is, again, ad that you would look and say, oh, I could have done it myself. Because technically you can assemble it without even Photoshop. You can assemble something like this in Canva, which like designers don't use, but like for example founders like to use, and things like that, or their assistants or somebody like that. But you need to understand the principles behind, and the research that came into ending up with this ad. And how,
One simple ad,
yeah,
it's like all the prep work leading up to it.
and hours of collaboration with copywriter, when we like pushing back onto each other to like balance out each other's ideation. And that is also a big part of it, is collaborative workflow around the copy. Because again, we wanted to start with a copy that is a little bit cheeky, but it is not something is like uh, dry lips, not until that kind of copy. We didn't
Yeah.
want it to
Right,
be
right.
overly direct responsive because we don't know yet what is this customer. Maybe it's a customer that wants a
Yes.
bit elevated copy from that. And I really loved the copy. I think it's pretty funny. And now we are thinking about different ways how we can optimize from that. One of which is replacing the photo of standing product by simple shot of man hand holding the product like this. Here's the product. And and like kind of point of view, because again, customer psychology, imagining that it's you holding the product the moment and you hold the phone is kind of nice feeling, and we can try to do the same with the same copy. And thinking about that, or a person applying this product in the same copy, so we can start thinking about how to relate to the audience a lot. But we know for sure men love scrubbing just as much as they love to take 1 hour in hot shower, but we are not selling hot showers, we are selling scrubs. Yeah, also very quickly identifying what kind of products out of all the line men relate the
Yeah.
most to, so we can build our initial engagement and revenue from these products, and then layer in more complicated products that need education to get men to buy them.
Yeah. Would have certainly been a very different ad if we were doing hot showers, men in hot showers.
Yeah,
um,
everybody
um, yeah, no, it's super interesting because I think I posed a challenge to you guys too, which was like, we're doing the very difficult work, which is make it work as soon as we start spending $1, and that's because we bootstrap these businesses. They're not, we don't have millions of funding, or anything like that, and they don't have millions to spend on ads. So that every single dollar is so important. So how do you recommend, um, for example, for somebody who, I think what the challenge that we face as creators is like, we have so many decisions to make, or at least like there's a whole buffet of ideas that you could go. And you mentioned something, which is we still don't know the avatar. We still don't know exactly the reason why they would buy. We came across two conclusions: either it was to solve acne issues or anti-aging issues. So describe like the methodology of making the decisions to commit to a specific angle or creative that has the highest chance of it working the way that we just basically pulled it off inside the men's skincare brand.
Yeah, I would say with graphics you kind of um, hack the system a little bit, because I think with videos you usually land on very specific epics, on very specific messaging arcs, while with graphics you can still pull out a little bit, or like bring other products. For example, you want higher AOV, try to push the other products through these informative aspects of that. That is why our initial test was like, let's figure out what product people relate to through different products that we present in a different ways, but all these ways reflect the function of the product. Here is you scrub away the tired look, right? They are not saying that it in the creative itself, they are not saying that it solves acne per se, but it's from the acne line. So that creates us the possibility to later optimize it with ad copy that can actually be in more various angles. We can do the very acne specific ad copy. We can do even like anti-age, you scrub away your years. You can reinterpret that this way. And that is, I think, the magic of graphic ads, that you can start first layer on product and function, and how this function motivates the customers, And through that, you can start even building these big topics. Because here we already knew that there is a big theme of acne and anti-age. But in other products, you can just go through products, through customer behavior, and find this big topic. You know, you can like, okay, people won't like to buy this thing because it does this thing, but what is a big topic behind that? And then support it through ads copy, through experiment with other graphics, and so on. So yeah, I really wanted to elaborate on this a little bit because it's very interesting balance that we are mindful that this is acne line, but we will not make every ad being very elaborate about it being an acne line. We create a possibility for it to be optimized with different ad copies and like try to like find the best way, the best combination. Here's like a here it would be a man who suffers with acne and also wants to scrub tired look, but for other clients it can be that he wants to scrub the tired look because he loves hot showers too much. There's different
Yeah.
reasons, because maybe they have too
Yeah.
dry skin and they like to scrub it from the hot showers.
Yeah. And actually, I mean, it's a really from a strategic perspective, from any business owner who is wanting to get the maximum out of the any effort to get a return at the highest speed. Um, I think that it's just it's the most smart approach is to use graphics to cover multiple angles at a much quicker pace than a video would. Um, because, like you said, a video sort of it has to a storyline. It's a storyboard. There's a storyline. There's like a main messaging arc, and it takes a while to actually produce that. And that's the methodology that we use in the men's skincare. It was really like, let's use graphics to test different types of messaging at a really fast, agile way, and then iterate, you know, um, based on the results, on all the signals that we're getting from the data. Um, I mean, we in Sugatan, we've been doing this for so long now that we've been able to just get there much faster than I think, get to the conclusion much faster, or at least set up the initial test much faster than I think somebody who is just coming into the game, or who's a novice who has little experience. But this is the best approach. That's the benefit of graphics, is you can have volume and different messaging arcs within that volume that you can test, whether you're a new business or you're coming up with a new product line. And before you even develop the product, you can just think of creating some rendering, some images. And if you have a really good media buyer who knows the signals, the right signals, that's really the best approach if you're most interested in, which I think is the majority of us, in really maximizing the dollar that you have available to spend. I'm telling you, it's the best freaking like unintentional thing on my end. Yeah, it's just amazing.
Yeah, I want to give one more example because I think it will be quite funny. Is on one of our clients, they wanted to launch new product and they wanted to launch it 1 day strict, but product was not ready. They couldn't send it to anybody to make a content, and they were delaying even in making content in-house. So that would be the situation where everybody like cries out, you need to postpone things. But we thought about that, and I'm like, my past is also in creative tech, so I have a lot of like 3D artists in my connection. So I'm like, why not that make this girl to do 3D renders of these exact bottles in different angles? Because we already know the color of the product, we already have the labels, we can approximate the sizes and things like that. So we did all this like CGI photography of just bottle with nice light and different around and like turning around as well. And then we made fun animations with that. And then we made just one thing that went the most viral from this launch was like these 3D bottles, and on the background is blood close up of a woman kind of applying the product, but it was creating this like, oh, they need to reveal what is she doing because she's blood. But actually, we blurred her because we also had limited account, like a limited content to work on this account. Plus, with CGI graphics, they also did wonders on like Black Friday. We were like flying around in very fun way while saying sale, 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 and that is like we had zero photography. We like literally didn't have product on hand, and we still managed to make it perform. This is, I think, another advantage of like graphics.
Well, beyond that, and on another account, um, they changed their packaging, and but yet they still had a lot of inventory of the old, not packaging, not the box itself, but the component of the product itself. And they still had a whole ton of inventory of the old one, but yet we needed to start shifting into the new branding. And so, Dana, she had to create renderings of like, and so we were able to still advertise with the new branding, um, even though they didn't even have the actual product photography available for the new branding just yet. So, and then beyond that, um, I think let's speak on like our personal journey inside Sugatan of how graphics has evolved because of the need to evolve. For example, when we started doing production, ourselves, for specifically for the graphics department, why did we need to start doing that? One, two, when we started to really expand on our services, which email has always been there from the inception. We have CRO, always been there since the inception of Sugatan, but now we're going on to display. We've taken on Google Ads. We've taken on, even Pinterest, for example. So let's sort of like cover from an efficiency perspective, again, from the context of a business owner and a founder who is, or a head of performance, why is it such a how much more can we stretch that dollar that we're investing into building out a graphics team, or having graphic, or bringing on graphics initiatives into the team, like from your perspective, like how does that dollar stretch on over to drive performance in other areas from that work that you're doing, in graphic ads primarily?
I would say it can really stretch a long way to infinity and beyond, because we started before doing production. We started to work with what we have. We were the most resourceful team. I know for a fact that on smaller accounts, we can keep driving performance for like months and months, just having 5 photos to work with, or things like that, or left over like some screenshots or like 2 seconds clips from the videos that I made and things like that. We started with being very resourceful. But one thing that we figure out is that it may take after 6 months, people may get like very tired of the images that they work with. Basically, uh, we started very resourceful, but when we found out that the problem comes in like 6 month mark, that we just need to have new photography, we just need to have eye of the customer, like engaging with something fresh. And we already got insight about what has worked. With some clients, it resulted in us making briefs for them and asking, okay, out of all your products, orange ones perform the best. Can you make orange photos? And they would. But not always that is possible. So that means that we need to do the photography production. But I would suggest to think about photography production regardless of you making it cheap or making it expensive. It's something that you can stretch the long way. And if we think about what can, like, where brand marries performance is in the concept of consistency. We also want customer experience throughout the whole funnel to be consistent, making sense and not looking totally different, right? And we want, from brand perspective, to people to distinct brand in their head in the group of similar brands, buy this consistency because they will see and they will start pattern recognition. Oh, that's that brand. So it's both kind of performance principle and brand principle in there. And how it applies with photography production is that if we are doing it for the big launch or sale, you will have this photography in ads, you will have this photography in emails, you will have this photography in banners on the website, and you will have this photography in also product images in the like product page itself. And people would recognize, if they will see on one channel, they will recognize that they will see similar thing on another channel. And you can apply different performance principles based on the channel, obviously. uh, it would be different from what works on Pinterest and what works on Facebook. Obviously, emails will look more elevated and branded anyways, because there is a space there, there's like textual storytelling there, and so on. But there would be this consistency. And I like to say to uh, every company owner that actually struggles with brand, I would suggest to start with consistency. If your product looks great, most possibly the product itself is your biggest brand distinctive asset. Logos nowadays are just a text written on a white background, while your packaging tells the whole story to the customer and relates to their desires. That is why I always suggest invest in the quality product photography. And if you want this product to also associate with a certain avatar that you built for yourself, then it also can be portrait photography with a product in use and things like that, that you show for either aspirational figure or relatable figure in your model selection. And yeah, you make 100 photos and imagine counting all the assets. He will make 1,000 assets of these 100 photos easily, while you cannot cut videos that much. You cannot rehash them.
Look, I experienced it, you know, when I went out to LA to just do to set up to explore setting up production out in LA. And gosh, I was part of like actually organizing the whole production. And you know me, I'm going to try to bulk in everything into one shoot. So let's do video and photos. And I'm not the greatest at details. I'm not a detail oriented person. I'm a very big picture person. I'm outcome based, you know, and oh my gosh, the granularity in one close up eye photo, you know, even like, oh gosh, and I'm self-taught and everything, right? And my whole optimism about my life is that I can do anything. So of course I put myself in these traps where I'm like, holy shit, we don't even know the difference of what lash is what. And that was like the feedback that you gave. You're like, we didn't even label the lash itself that we were photographing, you know? And that really comes from my lack of experience about just how granular you need to be in these productions, you know? Anyway, I'm digressing here, but um, I just remember it being such an interesting experience, of course, as I learn about what it actually takes to do production, um,
Yeah,
and 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 being able to know from you guys' perspective, because then I can appreciate that work more and understand, you know, the resources that it takes, not just in money, but the talent, you know, the eye, all these intangible aspects, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would like to add that the biggest problem with trying to get both photography and videography hi-fi assets is that it's technically impossible. You will something will always break. It will cost ridiculous amount of money, and it's unnecessary. Do step two separate shoot days. But for people who like to be resourceful, one thing that I found pretty fun is set up the second station, which is mobile only. So one thing that I, as like photograph like organizing the I'm actually organizing photography shoots oftentimes with full blown like photography agencies that can help me with everything, like ensure that there is a screen so we can see close up if product is in the focus and things like that. They can help with labeling. But one thing that we decided when we were shooting actually close ups of the eyes for this, like, and portraits for this lash product, is that we will set the second station, which is mobile, and I just added like tape around my phone. And I was lucky that my friend of mine, who is actually a TV personality, so she's like host on different like YouTube channels and TV and things like that. So she knows how to flirt with a camera, and she just was there. And she's like, "Okay, you know what? Let me chat with models." And she started to chat with models and like doing like all the thing. And she's explaining to them how to like snap this lash, how to be surprised, how to be. And she's like, "Now you're surprised. Now you're in love. Now you're like." excited. Now you're just confident. Now you flirt with the camera. And models loved this
Yeah.
direction. And they didn't even take this mobile station as a part which is work. They took it as a rest. If they were actually coming with
Yeah.
more energy to the second part of the shoot. And I believe the same can be applied to video shoots. Make them do some funny selfies, do a bit of a backstage. Some of this photography at the end would be able to, like, you will be able to utilize for the ads. Just even make models with their nice manicured hands hold the product and make this mobile shot. You will just get something that you don't have to think a lot about, and you will actually focus on the main thing that needs to be hi-fi, that video needs to be hi-fi, or like it needs to be very directed even if it's UGC. And the same with photography, focus on that, but then take the mobile phone and do the like additional part. This content can also work
Yeah.
wonders.
100%. That's actually the beauty of the time that we're in right now, is that what is the most prominent is what's native to like day-to-day experience. Like TikTok, for example, you're just like on your iPhone and you're just like recording things off of your iPhone. And so it's required for, that's why production costs are actually low, I would have to say, in comparison to what brands had to face back in like the 80s, 90s, let's just say, to deck advertising campaigns. And but like really it's the brain, because like the data points that we can collect on digital advertising is so many. You can really measure literally every single action of the funnel. And I think that that's where a lot of people tend to get lost, or at least the skill set just has to be around, has shifted to being more research driven. It's shifted to being more strategic driven, and that's why, um, you know, the terminology that I think we all learned from the founder of Naked. When we were on a call with him, he said, we're brain and we're muscle, and I think that that is actually um, what is really unique about us, because in these groups that I'm in about agency owners, they force us to choose. You're either only brain or you're only muscle. And that's when I knew we're not a typical agency, because how can we confine ourselves to just each one? That just sounds so, I don't know, limiting, If just imagine if all we did was brain, and not really have a platform to experiment with those ideas experientially, and all we did was tell people how they think it should be done, and then, or just be all muscle, which is basically being people that just push the buttons and shift things around on the image that is directed by somebody else. It just, life wouldn't be as rich, I don't think, or work life anyway,
Yeah, I think
which totally bleed into
everybody
life.
should be a playing coach, so to speak, in their discipline. Because even when I zoom out from doing day to day design, I find myself bored and doing some strange things. Like at some point, like in my free after work time, I'm like, why not to like photograph a product on the phone? And I just like did a couple of photos,
Yeah.
and I'm like, why not to like edit these photos? And then like, oh, I have a training for the team how to make these photos and edit these photos. And then I gave like, let's make ads with them. And then they worked. And I'm like, okay, that came to me the idea to play and not just coach. just came to me out of boredom, but it did work out. And that's why I'm insisting on, like, everybody's like coming back in and doing something practical, even if it's not ads. Just design, like, if you are like strategizing on top level, design email, design an ad, make a photo, just try to grasp about everything that you do to the product. I think that is something that every creative director needs to be able to do. Just
Yep.
come back, make it work.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate, your intense curiosity, right? Your intense like need to explore. And I think that in the context of how we need to operate, which is to always be at the leading edge of innovation and what's investigating what's working, what's not working, as so many things change, which is the market is shifting, the algorithms are shifting, the way that people consume visual media is shifting, even the social media platforms themselves are shifting as TikTok becomes more and more popular. All of these things that is, it requires the team to have this intense curiosity, to have this intense exploration, to have an intense need to learn and grow. I think that that's why we work. That's why I think that is the core brilliance, I think, of Sugatan and the team. And I appreciate that, with you as the leader in your pod. I think that you're a great example of that. um, and I think it for those who are listening, that it will create that level of impact, and obviously the impact that we create with the businesses that we scale. We have to have a part two. I want part two of our conversation to be around the tension that exists between brand principles and also performance principles. And I think that there are brands who have basically there are brands who do performance really well, and then they struggle with like incorporating brand principles and how to do that, and what is the value of that. And then there are those brands like the one that we talked to earlier today, who has thrived on brand principles but don't really know how to incorporate performance principles. And there is a lot of tension that exists within that. One is short term driven, the other is long term driven. And so, how to find the marriage between the two, which is a topic that we're exploring currently, and we want to share with everybody some of the things that we're learning. I think that'll be an awesome freaking conversation because it's so relevant to everybody here. So that'll be part two. Stay tuned, guys. Otherwise, this has been an awesome conversation with you, Maryna. Thanks for taking the time. As always, we're gonna kick ass,
Oh, sure.
and yeah, and we'll probably have an update about that men's skincare brand in terms of like at that point, at what revenue are we achieving? Since it's a from $0 revenue brand. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. Thanks, Maryna. Ciao, guys.